Welcome, everybody. Here's another CIRF report. We're not quite going to touch the end of April, but some big astrological events coming in, such as a full moon, a T-square, and Uranus at the stage front on Taurus, the side where the sun is. But first, let's just do a quick summary slide. Well, we got to do this first. Get your surfboards out. Let's look at what the summary slide looks like. And if you're new here, what we're doing is triangulating the different forces. We want to know what the biggest energies are, the one energy to really look out for. And this week looks like disruption. And I think front and center, like I said, is Uranus, but there's quite a bit more up there that is throwing things off. Interestingly, the headlines out there are commensurate with what the collective unconscious is seeing. So this is what people's dreams are saying is riots and travel. I would have to say that that's probably what's called day residue. We'll talk more about that later, but obviously with headlines the way they are, no wonder people are dreaming about riot material. And then very interesting here that the I-Ching is hexagram 1 and says the creative. Notice that there's no change lines. So yang is the influence, but it's also going to be the solution. So if you're new, the major part of these CIRF reports, in my opinion, is towards the end. The second half of our discussion will be the solution. We're going to triangulate for that main advice on how to behave, how to capture this energy for your best good. In the astrology, we're going to go day by day here. So there's a lot to it. The full moon, the T-square, the mega stellium square on Saturn. There's a lot of pressure here and a lot of different influences for just general disruption. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And here is the Dreambot. Folks, this is what people are dreaming about, and it's important because it represents the memes in the subconscious material, the dreams around the world. And it indicates both how we're being programmed, but also where we're headed as a collective, because where mind goes, body follows. Action follows thought. So here's our subconscious thoughts: monument, community, hearings, extremely died. So all these red are riots because there's accidents in there, stops, debris, panic, etc. So the red is pretty alarming, but we've seen a lot of that in the headlines, so no surprise really. And then in the blue arrows, you've got just general travel, and it's like travel and vehicles, train, plane, ships, trains and automobiles. Seats. So there's a lot of travel in there. Whoops. All right, let's get into astrology. All right, summary slide. As you know, because I have been warning you, is going to see a lot of red, a lot of squares, and I've got to go back to this. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, here's the summary slide. Busy as you know, it's because we're in this period in between the two black vertical lines. This is where we are this week, the 22nd of April to the 28th. And there are quite a few squares. And so that's going to provide a lot of pressure and conflict potentially. Sun has gone into Taurus. Mercury's in Taurus now. Mars is headed into Cancer. So all these things, there's Pluto going retrograde throughout this week. And then that perma square. Let me get the better highlighter out. This is the perma square. I'm calling it almost permanent for 2021. I think it's going to end towards the end of 2021. I really do need to go back and look at when that is, because that'll be a mark. That'll mark, I think, the last square when there's finally no squares in the sky. I think this one is the last one to go, and I think it's in December. I should just go ahead and check that before I keep saying I think. All righty. Uranus. Here is the biggest news coming up, and let me set the stage. And this is going to be true all the way through to the full moon. As you can see, the moon in Virgo right now. This is Thursday, the 22nd. The moon in Virgo is continuing on to Scorpio, where she will have the full moon across from Taurus. But in the meantime, all the attention is up here. Uranus, Venus, Mercury, and Sun, all within 8 degrees in Taurus. So first of all, a lot of Taurus energy, and that is going to be, steady, maybe slow to get started, but can really continue that generation of energy and sustainment. It's a foundation. It's rock solid. It can also be stubborn and wants to experience the finer things. So you have all these planets here. The only one that really doesn't like being there is Uranus. And, because, slow and steady, but headstrong, that's not really Uranus, is more of eccentric and different and disruptive. And hence the name Disruptive on our main energy. As you're going to see throughout this week, all these planets, Venus and Mercury, eventually the Sun, but a little bit later, I think after this week. But they're going to be going past Uranus, the one that's eccentric and doesn't really feel like he belongs in Taurus. So that should be really interesting. And as you go by here, what else is interesting is that these planets are in parallel with Uranus. So in their exact same bit of sky as we look out into the night sky. And so these planets are going to get even closer. So Venus is literally going right over top of Uranus, or right in front of Uranus. And so relationships and maybe financial upheaval exist. Mercury then is going to be going past Uranus, and thoughts, but you can also get this. Uranus is also the inventor and the eccentric big thinker, and so that can really bode well for creativity, and particularly around more scientific and rational approaches. But Uranus is also, technology. So new insights about technology might get funneled into the rational brain, but also thinking really disruptively with the thoughts and how you communicate. I wouldn't be surprised if some of us feel dizzy. I'm already starting to feel a little dizzy this morning. It could be something else. It's not usual for me to feel dizzy. And it's not too disruptive, but it almost has this sort of feel to it. The Mercury conjunct Uranus, in my opinion. But I'm thinking that might be a little bit too early. But Mercury as well is in parallel. And I think the sun's not parallel. But these two will be going through this week. And one by one, you're going to have a little bit of disruption in that particular realm. And then on top of that, there's a triple square over to Saturn. And then shortly, it'll be a quadruple square with the sun. We'll add another square on here. So this is adding a lot of tension, a lot of pressure. I know that you see these 3 nice, easy trine things here, but that's with the moon. So that doesn't last very long. This is very enduring. These are multiple days of energy that's pressured. And the other end of this is Saturn. So foundation, even knowledge base and knowledge foundation. It might be the Akashic records are being pressured, and status quo and government and the foundation of Saturn, maybe even hardship. But all that is pumping in conflict, pressure, tension into this whole equation. And the big benefactors now are benefactors, if that's a proper term, maybe the maleficents or the receiving this conflicted energy. The main ones is Uranus opposed Saturn, because they have been there all this time. And so now it's strong on this side. And so I wanted to make the hypothesis that which side's going to break first from this pressure. And I'm thinking that Saturn might break in terms of like the status quo, for example. It might break and buckle to the change and the extra energy that Uranus has over in the sign that it doesn't like to be in with this square. So that might break, it might pop. That's what happens sometimes when this squared energy gets too big, too much. The top blows off and something big happens. So am I calling for something big? Well, I'm hoping. Hopefully not a negative big. Friday, the 23rd. Here, now, I circle Venus because Venus is just past Uranus. So relationships are sort of like being shaken up, or maybe finances being a little bit shaken up, if you will. And, Venus having to adapt after having passed through Uranus. Next up will be Mercury, and your thoughts are getting there just like we described. Plus, you have extra dreamy here with the moon oppose Neptune. And, that's important because moon is really commensurate with that water sign of Pisces, particularly Cancer. It's home to Cancer, but adds to this dreamy nature of Neptune. And so that with Mercury and your thoughts adjusting to Uranus, whatever curveball that's going to be, and then having this extra dreaminess, that's going to be Friday. It might feel like, whoa, like a false reality. On top of that, you have Mars just fresh into Cancer. So he's in a fall now. And so if you can imagine running in water, that's basically what Mars in Cancer is. And so it's going to become less easy to get stuff done, or to maybe to knock out tasks. Maybe if you could normally knock out maybe 5 tasks, maybe you can only get 2 of them done, for example. So things might get a little slower here for you. But I think I covered everything there. Saturday, Mars has an additional square to it because things get even less easy for Mars. And Mercury has just officially passed Uranus, again in that same piece of sky. Sun has got 6 degrees away and is technically almost within that square of Saturn. So we can call it 4 squares here now. So the pressure is getting pushed up as we head into the full moon. That's Saturday the 24th. A little bit more pressure. And then, even more pressure on Sunday the 25th. And nothing really else to mention, just those 4 squares. So lots of pressure. And I'm proposing that the status quo sort of can't handle this pressure. So this is the weak point, in my opinion, as we're going to see, because on Monday, the 26th, at 10:31 Central Time, on the 26th, you're going to have a Scorpio full moon. And as you can see, it's a T-square, and T-squares trap people. And the trap is the Saturn influence, the maleficent, the bad guy. People think of the bad guy, but this time it is sort of, it's conflicted from multiple sides, but it can be hardship. It can be hard. That's the trap, that getting trapped in the way things have always been. But I think that's what buckles, because now you've got a square over the moon and a quad square over the stellium. And I think this is going to be the weak area, and hopefully top will pop off on Saturn, and the way things have always been changing due to the pressure of this T-square. And meanwhile, all this energy over here is really important, because I had to make a decision on where that main influence is in the astrology, because we have to plot that for the solution. And normally I choose that full moon, because that full moon plus or minus 24 hours can be chaotic. It can also be disruptive. And in this one, you've got a lot of extra passion with Scorpio. It's deep-seated passion, lots of emotions, might even be feeling sort of the past, and maybe resentments towards that might be coming out, particularly with that square over to Saturn. that can be hard. Thoughts can be the hardship, especially if it's the past. But anyway, what I went with this week is the energy of Sun and Uranus, mainly Uranus, because of all these planets in that same speck of sky, is dominating the energy, even with that full moon. So you got all this energy shining over to the Scorpio full moon. And what you're seeing is a reflection of all that energy. As you look at the moon in the night sky around around bedtime, if you're in Central Standard Time in America, you will be seeing the reflection of all this energy, not just the sun, but all of that. So anyway, that's something big to consider. And I'm going to show you why this matters in the solution slide. But basically, we're taking Uranus and plotting that for our solution slide. All right. And then that full moon energy continues and the T-square continues into Tuesday. This is halfway through the day on Tuesday, and no big changes, but we did want to see, okay, so here, according to this, Pluto hasn't gone retrograde just yet. So we'll be looking at Pluto retrograde in the next CIRF week. All right. That's the astrology. Well, okay, one more day. Now we have a new alignment that's fresh here is Mercury trine Pluto. And so notice that it's both earth signs. So that brings in some sort of groundedness and practicality. And you might have some more disruption, some more maybe death, rebirth, but it's also that inner power. And so it's maybe like breaking the shell easily to get to that inner power and being able to recognize that. It should be rational. It should be easy to communicate with that Mercury trine Pluto. So even speech might be extra boost of power there. But it also could be disruptive in your thoughts and communication. All right, there we go for the astrology. Let's head into the I-Ching. And this really threw me for a loop when all 6 coins went to Yang. We have 6 Yang lines and no change lines. So it's the influence is creative power. It's Yang, complete Yang. And that can be that if you think of Yang as strong or masculine, it's the extreme masculine. It's also the creative power. And so can be creating something out of nothing or something that's been planned for a while. But the air is ripe with imagination, inspiration, and energy. It's the flying dragon, bodes well for the creative movement. But be forewarned, success turns to failure if strength turns to arrogance. The first hexagram contains all Yang lines. So, as we remember, this is also the solution. So I'm reading a little bit of the solution right here. Here's some of your actions to consider for the week. Believe in your dreams and persevere, and everything around you will flourish. Call upon your creative power and let it work through you. Stay focused on your goals. Do not allow yourself to be distracted, or you may lose the power that is available to you now. Remember that when taking action, success requires making the right moves at the right time. And then it goes on to say that in the I-Ching 1, the creative power doesn't just happen and then you manifest it. You go through these particular stages. And so I'm going to read these stages. I'm just going to give you a summary of these stages. Line 1, the bottom, hold your power in reserve. That's the first stage. It's just sort of waiting for the right time. Your influence is growing in line 2. Then you go, a sphere of influence is opening up. So now you've got like doors opening. So don't let your energies become distracted and don't expect an immediate reward, but you're initiating action. So line 4, then you have a clear choice in this situation, either lunge forward or draw back. So it's very decisive. Line 4 is where you become decisive. Then line 5, the dragon is soaring. Your power is growing. Then line 6 is be wary of personal ambition that exceeds your true power, lest there be cause for remorse. So to finish off the project is assessing how much actual ambition you have left, or making sure you have enough power to finish the cause. All righty. And I'll get to the summary or the overlap of the solution here. But remember, we have to plot the energies. Now, what we're doing is we're plotting where the main influence is in terms of tropical astrology, so then we can convert it into the rave and the sidereal. Normally, I go with the full moon because that's normally the just dominant energy. But according to the I-Ching, it's the energies over here, and that matches up with the collective unconscious. So it's all, to me, very obvious that the energies need to be plotted more around the Uranus and Sun. Sun is just on the edge of the 24. Uranus is in the rave 24. And then if you had to pick a zodiac sign for the I-Ching, what would it be? Well, the number one yang probably would be either the Sun or Aries. I guess you could make a case for the Mars as well. These are the fire signs. And then the zodiacal signs, Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. But Aries is number one in the zodiac, the first sign. So first I-Ching hexagram, first sign in the sidereal. All right, so let's first read a little bit of the rave mandala. This is the gate of rationalizing. And keep in mind, this is where Uranus is right now. So the role of the mental individuality, the word individuality is a direct correlation to Uranus. So the role of the mental individuality is to find a way to communicate a unique awareness to the collective mind. Before any attempt, all communication is possible. The inspiration must be given a rational form. So basically, according to this 24, so even though you've got Uranus there changing everything up, including your thoughts, it's the individual thoughts that must be given a rational form in order to inform the collective mind. They call this pondering, and you ponder that thought, that rational thought, until the energy is transformed into a rational form. Then I have the actual line is line 4. That's where Uranus is. It's called the Hermit. And that's a direct match too, because Uranus wants to be free, eccentric, be himself. And it's also the inventor, thinks best alone. And so transformation that can only take place in isolation. This is really interesting. So you've got Aries, the first sign in the zodiac, along with the I-Ching yang. And so now the discipline and focus assures renewal. Aloneness enriches the potential for rational thought. So basically, we're getting inundated with collectivism right now, collective thought, propaganda, etc. So in this case, the aloneness isn't just, in my opinion, is not just about taking yourself to a place where there's nobody else, but it's also eliminating any extraneous. What's that word? Anyway, extraneous. You want to get rid of any extraneous thoughts. So like turn off the TV, turn off your phone, and that's where you sit alone, finding this rational thought. And it's not ruminating, but it's pondering deeply. And it's saying that if you need to get alone, it's going to help you reach that rational thought. Why are we focused so much on the thinking? Well, I believe it's because of the Mercury that's just the recent last one to pass both Uranus and Venus. So, arguably going faster than those are. All right. So now that you've probably thoroughly confused, let me summarize everything in the summary slide. So first of all, here's the influence, the top of this slide, disruption ahead from multiple different aspects. You got the full moon, the T-square, the trap. You have the stellium in Taurus, and Uranus. Uranus at the very center of that stellium. So a lot of disruption is expected. So we have the I-Ching 1, that is the yang line, the creative power, heightened energy overall, stay focused, watch out for arrogance. Rave Mandala, gate 24, the gate of rationalizing. Mental individuality helps instruct the collective mind. Isolation enhances your potential of irrational thought. And then you've got Sidereal. Just as a clarification, something I just thought of, Rave Mandala, the mental individuality, it doesn't mean that you need to be alone this week. It's if you're having problems getting to that rational mental individuality, then you're probably distracted a lot. So going off on your own for a while, a bit of time, can help that potential for the rational thought to develop. And that'll be the seed to your action, because you have Sidereal Aries, direct, transparent, vigorous, ardent, confident. That's the sidereal behavioral solution. All right. Overall triangulation. We have an increased probability for disruption, like I just talked about, especially with a T-square on Saturn with the Scorpio moon. Individuality and brilliance of Uranus matches the mental individuality of Rave 24. And Uranus is already there in Rave 24. So no coincidences there. Individual yang is in the air, and the Sidereal Aries is perfect for this job. Be yourself unapologetically. Isolate if necessary for better mental acuity. So if you're getting distracted a lot, one of those solutions could be to compartmentalize, but it also could be just physically leaving that space, getting alone, maybe out in nature. Doesn't have to be the whole week. Can just be 15 minutes to regain composure or whatever. Or it could be hours at a time. Whatever's necessary for you. Stay focused and remember to watch out for the impulsive action and arrogance. So one thing that's helping you this week is that Taurus energy sort of prevents that impulsive action, but it does want the finer things. So you might impulsively be maybe buying something with Venus just going past Uranus. You could find yourself impulsively thinking Aries, wanting something nice. So you're buying something impulsively. So watch out for that. But the protective factor here is that Taurus energy, because not too impulsive there. Bring intensity of rational thought with full, confident vigor. This will impact the collective unconscious. Now, heads up for a special blind spot this week. Sarcasm, cynicism. Watch carefully for this, as it reduces your power because you're giving up your power to what is perceived as the villain, if you will. The sarcasm, the object of the sarcasm or cynicism becomes the unconscious power in that situation. So don't give your power away. Watch out for the victim role in sarcasm and cynicism. Get into your thoughts, but in a nice, insightful way. So thinking about combining, you might even put those images in your mind with the images of the hieroglyph of Uranus with the hieroglyph of Mercury. And disruptive thoughts could be a really good thing, because Uranus, the inventor, that's an alignment. If you're needing a breakthrough in thought, there it is. So it's all correlated this week. It can get a lot done as long as you're in those stages of the I-Ching 1. And maybe you go back and review those stages. And it's not going to be probably just a spawning immediate sort of energy that you get an immediate response to, and then everything's fixed and breakthrough. I think it's a building of pressure over the week into that T-square, and then the status quo or the Saturn, I think, buckles under that pressure, and you're going to see a disruption of probably the way things have always been, hopefully. And you can do this at a personal level and actually cause a collective if we all do it. If we have enough emphasis, mental emphasis. According to this solution slide, we'll have enough mental emphasis on positive change. And we've got that pressure on the back of Saturn. And so we got our opportunities this week. All right. Watch your thoughts. Be patient. Wait for that energy to manifest. And then pounce if you see that opportunity. If it's right, pounce on it. And then assess for your energy levels to complete the project. And then isolating as necessary to refine and bring your thoughts into focus and clarity. All right. Well, hopefully it all goes well for everybody. I wish you well. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week.